Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, it's Jurassic Explains, looking at Titanosaurus. So it's finally happened. Well, not really. I had my anniversary last month. My wife bought me this for a gift. So here we are. Huzzah! Praise to Lady Washington. So first of all, I want to point out that the history, before I open it, the history of the animal, because it's really quite interesting. Titanosaurus, the genus that I'm talking about that this toy is based on, was first discovered, the first bones described to it, or from two vertebrae in India, first described in 1828, which is interesting because the word dinosaur wasn't coined until 1842, where Richard Owen in Britain, and the first dinosaur we recognize in modern Western science is Megalosaurus in 1824. So it could have been one of the first dinosaurs named. Unfortunately, it wasn't actually published and named until 1877. And so you're saying, well, wait a minute, they found it in 1828, and then it was, well, it turns out there's a lot of hands moving around. There's also, today I can put my phone up, you can pull up your laptop and find papers, information. But back then you're shipping these around, people were trying to identify it, it's getting, descriptions were, paleontology was a new science, right? And so the big deal is there's Titanosaurus and Titanosaurid, or Titanosauridae, the family. And so initially when they were finding this guy, the initial contribution in the 1800s was two vertebrae and like a femur. But the femur, the leg bone, was found in a different, it was the same area, but different layer of rock and not quite mapped out as well. And so, in short, they kept finding more of these things like this in South America and Africa and Asia, Madagascar, and they were naming them Titanosaur. And at some point, the genus Titanosaur had 14 species. And I'll remind you that Tyrannosaurus is a genus, Rex is a species, Velociraptor is a genus, Mongolians is a species. And so the idea is that there's multiple species per genus, right? And so having one or two species, not unusual, so maybe even three. Having 14 is weird. That seems way too many. Plus they were found in South America, Africa, and Asia. That's a lot of to spread out for one genus. And so it's been redefined as of 2003, I believe. So why does this matter to us? Well, in the movie Jurassic World Rebirth, there are these guys. And the thing is, the name Titanosaurus is important because make it simple, Jay. I've been thinking this over, reshooting. The idea is very simple, is that the Titanosaurus genus was put out there, but actually the individual may not be what they thought it was, but they kept finding more things like it. So Titanosaurus is a genus, Titanosaurid or Sauridae family, or Titanosaurs are actually the group. And so as far as figures go, their cousins, I guess, are the Titanosaurus from Collect A 2012, Paralotitan from 2009 Collect A, and then we have Patagonia 2000. Ooh, his numbers are kind of faint. 2000. It can't be too old because it's from a new model. 2022. Oh yeah. Safari and PNSO Alamosaurus, a gift from my friend Jim, and of course the Jurassic World Dreadnoughtus. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a tip of hat like look at that. This is a 5 foot long figure. I've already done a video on this guy, but there's more on him later actually. And so when Titanosaurus was being described, there was observations of similarities between this guy and the ones in South America. And so this is before plate tectonics, right? Plate tectonics, the idea of moving plates and continents, that did come to well, the first ideas of it were 1912, 1915. Plate tectonics as we know it isn't really a thing to the 1960s, right? And so before then, they're looking at this dinosaur and saying he has a lot in common in India with dinosaurs in South America. And that's really cool because we now know that when Pangea came together in the late Permian and began breaking apart in the early Jurassic, about 200 million years ago, Laurentia, North America, Europe, Asia, Laurasia, broke first from Gondwana land, which is South America, India, Australia, Africa, all that. And so we know that India, southern India, and Africa and South America, you could have walked across that back then. And so the idea that happening was unknown in the 1800s. So the scientists were writing like, hey, this guy has a lot of common characteristics with South American sauropods. There must have been a land bridge that was once connecting South America to India. We now know differently that they were just connected at one point and broke apart, but appreciate the time you're in. And I always think about what things will we learn in the future when paleontology, when we have better technology understanding. Anyway, so with the Titanosaurus, one thing to point out, Argentinosaurus is from South America. This is Argentina. Patagoniasaurus, Paralotitans from North Africa. Patagoniasaurus, these are one in the American History Museum in New York. It was often referred to as Titanosaur, before, because it was, they were already like copying it and scanning it and putting it on display before it was fully published and written about. So that's why you kept seeing that if you like Google image or YouTube Titanosaur, you get this animal, the one in New York Museum. And of course, Alamosaurus is the North American cousin, but Titanosaurs aren't known from North America as much as they are from somewhat Asia, but mainly South America, then Africa. And so these are all Titanosaurids, basically, relatively. And I honestly am wondering if Jurassic World will make or Jurassic Park Hammond Collection, or whatever, will make an Argentinosaurus. Because, like, this guy, I can only imagine that they didn't do this because it's a regional thing, and the whole point of the movie, spoiler, is the biggest of a group. So Titanosaurs are also the biggest of these dinosaurs, along the biggest of the giants of the giants. And of course, the name Titan, if I didn't mention earlier, is from Greek mythology, and the idea is that we think of the Titans. People often think of like the Titans and the gods. They're all gods. The Olympians were like Zeus and Hera and Apollo and all them, and the Titans were a generation of gods before them. So like Cronus and Rhea and all them. But they're all gods. This is that Titan and Olympian were different differentiations. Anyway, on that note, there's also a Godzilla creature named Titanosaurus. Let's open a toy. Let's see. I've waited long enough. What does the Emperor from Star Wars say? The official says this is Jurassic James. I've waited a long time for this, my little friend. Where is he? Okay. Let's see. Is there anywhere I can I think I can just do this, right? You don't need the actual scissors. Because, or maybe later. I don't know. We'll find out together, kids. So, well, that just fell. So, oh. There's like an app thing. You need, it's a toy. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Hard to open these guys when there's I bought a bunch of other toys on the mat, on the desk. I would have my big Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus and Jurassic World, but there's no more room on my desk. More parts. Okay. Let's put that easy. So clearly, the body design is basically the Brachiosaurus model. More on that later. Okay, that should be. Okay. Yeah, that's essentially the Brachiosaurus, but yeah. Let's see, this is probably neck piece. So put that into, let's show you here, the head. The mouth opens, oh, no, yeah, that hurt actually. This is for kids. Let's see. There we go. Now the base of the tail. The hole, the plug. Plug the hole. And the final bit of the tail, this little bit here, very nice, right there. Once again, there's a hole, there's a plug, plug the hole. Easy. There we go. So, another giant sauropod. It's almost touching the ceiling. Oh no, I just hit the ceiling fan cord wire thing. Alright, so Titanosaurus. the dinosaur allegedly known as Titanosaurus. I think the genus is somewhat valid, but it's like no one touches it. It's radioactive. But anyway, so the first thing I want to point out, if you saw the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, spoilers at this point, they show these Titanosaurs. I mean, they're in the trailers, all for goodness sake. And the first thing that stuck out to me personally when I was watching the movie, a trailer and normal movie, too far, okay, just not someone behind me, was this long tail. So the tail has this very long, and it's even longer in the movie. It's crazy long. So, and of course there's these little fins here, and there's little fin structures, or these kind of on the neck. So my first thing to point out is there's no evidence of the fin thing or the tail was this long. I mean, we didn't find this part of the tail of a Titanosaurus, or even most of the relatives. I've seen that Titanosaurs in general would have shorter tails compared to like Diplodocus. And on that note, actually, let me turn my friend. Actually, get these two guys. So our more famous, well-known relatives of this guy. There's the sauropods in general, sauropodomorphs, or long-necked dinosaurs. There's Diplodocus, there's Brachiosaurus, and our Titanosaurus. So Brachiosaurus is closer to the Titanosaurus. There's a group called Macronaria, which is derived from the fact that macro, big, naria, your nose hole. We have one here. Theirs is above their eye. And this giant thing, like this would be bone if I were Macronaria, and there'd be a hole right here where my nostrils are. And then Diplodocus is a different branch of sauropod. So they branched off earlier than these guys. And then they branched off later on, the Brachiosaurus from the Titanosaurus. And so we often see the long, elongated tails in the Diplodocus branch, not so much in the Titanosaur branch. Again, that's not an absolute, like, here's a thing, but it's one of the features we look at in paleontology. So having a tail that long was kind of unique to me. It stood out. Now, would dinosaurs have weird features that we can't tell, especially sauropods being so big and so mysterious? Yes, most likely. But the thing is, in science, we can only say what we know. Bear in mind, in the universe, in Jurassic World, the idea is that this island was where these dinosaurs they were first making, and they had weird mutations and unusual things that made them unworthy or unfit to be in the actual park. And so I would imagine that, I don't know, I have no idea. I'm trying to sugarcoat this situation. But on that note, I didn't mention this, I don't believe, in my Titanosaurus video. So if you ever, I'm not going to name a company or a documentary, but there was a documentary that showed a Dreadnoughtus, and it's on now, and they show these Dreadnoughtus, and they're a herd surrounding in a group, and the two males are fighting, and the males have these little balloon air sacs that fill up. And I remember I always have to watch these things with my wife, because my wife is not a paleontologist, she's normal. So when I'm looking at it, and I'm scanning and analyzing and deriving it, oh, that's like this paper, and that, you know. And she'll look at it just as a person who's not a paleontologist, who's you know, intellectual and smart, but doesn't know the science behind all the time. And so they show that Titanosaurus go pop, 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 these neck balloon things form, and she's like, do they have that? How do they have it? And I'm like, I have never. And I remember in the moment, I was like, I read the paper on this animal, and if I recall, I said in the Dreadnoughtus video, like they found like the parts of the skull, a couple of vertebrae here, like they missed the entire neck, and like some of the torso, and you know, and I was like, that's a very, you know, I'd say, well, I know sauropods we believe had air sacs internally because their vertebrae are so light and thin, but I didn't see anything in the paper suggesting, you know. So after the documentary, I remember the next day I was looking online trying to find information, papers and stuff and connection, and it turns out the guy who's the lead of the paper was saying that because he was hired on as an advisor for that documentary, and he was saying that he was going back and forth, and they never mentioned that neck balloon thing, and then it comes out and he sees it and he's like, what do you, and I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. So like, why hire an expert if you're not going to listen to them or even consult with them? But I do understand the idea that it is a cool thing. It was neat. I was shocked. I'm pretty sure all paleontology was shocked. What I'm saying is, I don't blame Jurassic World for doing weird stuff because it's Jurassic World. I do know the public still watches movies and believes what they're seeing in them. I understand that. But in a documentary, I have a different tone, a different view on that point. Anyway, so the figure, again, is essentially the Brachiosaurus, but with the Dreadnoughtus modified Brachiosaurus mixed neck. The head is really important to me because if you look right there closely, you see the face like that, all the lights are making it really, really white. Now, what's really cool about this is the nostrils are on the tip of the nose. So I'm going to get that closer. Can you look at that? Look at that. He's looking. It's looking into the camera. Look at that. Saying hello to all of you. do it this way. Now I'm missing. The point is, I met Larry Whitmer. If you're online, there's a Whitmer Labs. His research is amazing. I cite it all the time. And basically, him and his team, his students, take modern animal skulls, bodies, whatever, scan them, look at soft tissue and indentations and imprints, very cool stuff, and they compare like dinosaurs and they're able to derive many great things. So one of them, here's the story real quick. I went to the Paleontology Hall in Houston, and I saw a man sitting on the mount measuring Y-Rex to T-Rex, and I first thought was, who was this person who was on the mount touching it? Who would break this rule? And I remember looking closely and go, oh, it's Larry Whitmer. So of course researchers can come to museums and take measurements and do data like that. And I of course fangirled out, and I got a picture with him, and I asked him, like, he was talking to us a little bit, kind of lecturing here and there to the people, me and the people in the area. My friend Alex was there too. And I remember he was mentioning how we see the Nars hole up here, but most likely these guys have their nostrils at the tip of their nose so they can still sniff. They're still smelling, right? And I say, but the guy was like, the hole's up here, but it doesn't mean that the hole in the skull is up here. It doesn't mean the nostril is also up here too, like we see in some of the toys from the like 90s and 2000s, because we have a hole in our skull right here, but our nostrils are down here, and that's pretty minimized because we're primates. But for an animal like this, like Triceratops, may have had the holes for their back behind the beak, but the nostrils would still came out like this. You know, the actual soft tissue would have covered it, and this guy kind of shows that. And there's been a lot of speculation on sauropod faces and how they look, because we often will go with the plain Jane, because they don't have a lot of musculature in their face. They're not like cows and horses who are chewing and grinding their food. They're very simple-faced animals, comparatively speaking. And so with the Titanosaurus here, I would see that and think something like that, basically, that the nostril, there may have been some kind of inflammatory skin. I mean, you have to remember that when you're looking at these are animals. The biggest thing I get from the public who believe dinosaurs exist is that they're monsters. They're these ancient, like, dragon beasts. It's like, no, they're just animals who happen to live at a different time. You know, there's certain things like a hippopotamus that they did on the rounds of the internet. If a paleontologist saw a hippopotamus skeleton, not knowing what it was, they'd have those gnarly teeth showing, you know, in the look. And all the meat and skin, it's all fluffy and fun, but it's not actually that scary looking, all those big teeth. Well, these are just animals too. I mean, I'd imagine they would, you know, interpret hippo as this voracious, aggressive animal, but it's an animal. And so are these titanosaurs. Now they're giants. That's weird, because the only giants we have today are the baleen whales, and they are just like gentle giants eat plankton. And so, what has sauropod been like? We don't know, because we have personality-wise, we don't know because there's so few of the remains, but particularly, especially the giant ones, but also they have very small brains. And that's not an insult thing. It's just that, you know, they're not having elaborate, you know, they're eating, sleeping, mating, pooping. That's what most of us do anyway, until we get to a certain age as humans and realize, oh, it's more to life than just that. But the idea is that these guys here are amazing animals in their own right. And unfortunately with Titanosaurus itself, I'm guessing in the movie they just said biggest dinosaur, Titanosaurus. It sounds good, because they're saying that Patagonia Titan is bigger than Argentinosaurus. It's mainly because we have of the giant Titanosaurid sauropods, up until this guy, we had more of Argentinosaurus. There's a lot of them out there. You hear about the biggest dinosaur. That's why I don't touch it, because the biggest dinosaur is a huge debate. And I say, well, Argentinosaurus, we have these giant vertebrae. We have enough of them to go like, hey, this is the thing. Patagonia Titan seems to be way bigger and more parts. Not way bigger, but there's more parts of it found. And so that makes it stand out too. And so that's why I don't really go over that much in my own talks, because, you know, I don't want to fight. The point I'm trying to make is that Titanosaurus, this is a really cool figure. And if you do like them in the movie, I'd say get it, because it's just something different. The irony is, for me personally, this is a closing statement, is that as a kid, I always wanted bigger sauropods, because I have all my dinosaur toys, and you see them ones here, and there's more over there, and there's some stuff behind the camera. But the idea is that it's just that I want to. Honestly, some of these sauropods are too big, the Jurassic World ones. So I wanted big sauropods my whole life. Now we get them, and they're gigantic, and that's not really cool for space in my room. And my wife, she's not telling me I can't get any more. She's just concerned about space in my room. And so anyway, let's look at it real quick. Let's see. Oh, one thing that's really neat is that we have our hands, and we have our metacarpal, and we have our phalanges. Diplodocus, for example, this long neck here, has only like these metacarpal bones they walk on in this. So for Titanosaurs, they usually lose their fingers and a few nubs sticking out. And so this toy, you can't quite see that, but you kind of see the humerus, the ulnar radius, and it kind of terminates here of the forelimb. But overall, it's really cool. I can't show you more of it because it's just so big. But again, India's finest, allegedly. And also, last but not least, I said final statement earlier, and I just keep talking, is that I think the genus of Titanosaurus, like the 14 species that were named, are being reassigned. And so I know one of them was depicted in a different documentary, and it showed, if you hear the study of Titanosaurs laying eggs in India in volcanic soil, that is really, to incubate them. So remember, birds, actually, Oviraptor particularly, are found sitting on the nest. Like, they're light animals. They're really lightweight. So you can sit on the nest like a chicken. Myosaurs, we think the hadrosaurs may have put vegetation on nests like crocodiles because they were too heavy to sit on them. And of course, the sauropod going into a volcanic region where the ground is warm and lay their eggs, you can incubate it. That is so cool. And so that I think came out like a year or two ago, or maybe last year. Well, if it's not a documentary, it had to have come out a little longer than that. But that was a genus that was once Titanosaurus, not something else. And so again, it's a dubious genus overall. I just thought the tail's really weird and stupid. But anyway, we're done. I'm gonna talk about something else now. All right, talk to you later. Love you guys. Bye.